Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sloppy Lab. This is Bottom of Beaker, the weekly show about the design, ducks, and strategy of Keyforge, everyone, and I mean everyone's favorite unique deck game. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, here we are, Season 3. Well. At the old Sloppy Lab, we're cooking up the Uno reverse on you. We've got one extra special, one extra special secret uh, super key interlude edition. This is the super key interlude, the thing that came in your pledge that's got three keys in one. That's this interlude. Yes, indeed. We've got so much fun, had so much fun with these interludes that we thought we'd sneak one extra in before the official start to season 3. So strap on in and get ready for the super key interlude. I am still, I think, probably still JT Russell. A little bit discombobulated with all the vacations and what have you and travels, but pretty sure I'm still JT Russell. And the man who is going to have to wait, I guess, another week or two for a proper introduction, Quick Draw 3457 with me tonight. Hey, Quick Draw.
Hi, good evening. I'm happy to be at the Super Key interlude. And I just have to interject to make a little anecdote already. You said that we're playing the Uno reverse card. I played Uno this past weekend for the first time in about 20 years.
Uh-huh.
It's really funny that you mentioned that.
I play Uno every once in a while with my kids, and I think every time we make up a new rule, and I'm not actually sure at this point what the reverse card's supposed to do. I think it's like now the game goes in the other direction. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of like hand waving or like, oh, do we go back the other way and I take another turn too, or not take another turn? I don't know.
Mm.
There's some house rules around that. Um, but anyway,
We're here to talk about Uno this week.
no, we are here. I am even more chopped liver than usual. We are here to talk about the wonderful finish in KTL Season 2 that Team Sloppy Weekend has. And for that special reason, we've got two more people in the lab with us this evening. We'll say hello first to Sloppy Lab worker himself, JDG, fresh off back from Gen Con, right, JDG?
Yes, yeah, I was there. Yep, hello.
Right on, right on. Welcome, JDG. You'll have to come back during the regular season to get another funky intro. So, and back for more interlude goodness, John, aka Second Act. Welcome, John. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Am I setting a record for being on two interludes here, or has someone else already got that record?
I think you're in more interludes than I was in.
I think also, Quick Draw, you need to be having yourself a J name. Can we give you a J nickname? Because we have the J Tribunal.
I
Uh,
have too many fake names as it is. I'm going to pass on the J name.
nice. Well, whatever the names are, yeah, should be fun. And yeah, I was not joking. This time, after flying so high last season, Team Meticulous Plaging did not make it out of the group stage, but that's okay. I get to ride and revel in your glory, in your collective glory, as you all spiked the whole event. Congratulations, as it were. Very exciting. So maybe Quick Draw, can you give us a rundown of what KTL is all about and why there's so many of us here?
Yeah, so it's the KTL stands for Keyforge Team League. I always get a kick out of the games that pop up in TCO that say TKL, and I'm always kind of like Team Keyforge League. I never understand, but it's KTL Keyforge Team League. It is a teams of three, featuring the three formats of Archon, Triad, and Adaptive. So each person on the team will play a different format. So you have five total decks in your team. This season, there were four groups, each group with six teams, each team with three players. So 24 teams total, 72 players in this event this year, which I think is the same size as KTL 1, if I'm not mistaken. In KTL 1, JT, you were victorious with Not Tonight and Crusader. And this season, well, we were second last season, and this season, JDG and I teamed up with Second Act here, decided um, we were going to take another stab at it, and we're pretty successful, I would say.
Absolutely. So yeah, you were second time finalists. You and JDG here. So yeah, coming back with a vengeance and taking down. You've hit the cycle of finalist finishes, as it were. and and John, you decided that for your first time at the KTL, you would skip the the usual fare of second place and go right for glory.
I gotta say, like, for me, coming in first in anything is pretty rare, but I gotta tell you, when Quick Draw and JDG lost B-Hawk and came to me and asked me if I would be on their team, I was like, let's see, we've got JDG, one of the best players in Keyforge. We've got Quick Draw playing Adaptive, who, I mean, who's more associated with Adaptive than Quick Draw? This seems like a pretty good bet at this point to play with these guys. So I was all in on it.
Nice indeed, a super team as it were. Although we have to give some nod to the weekend folks, right? So yes, there was a sloppy team in the finals, and we're very proud of that. I think there were more weekenders in the finals than sloppy lab workers, though. Team weekenders, is that right?
There were, in fact, because Nobe and Astron, who were on the Island of Misfits team, are both team weekenders, and then I'm a team weekender, so that's 3 team weekenders in the finals. We had some discussion in our Discord that no matter which way the finals went, Team Weekend was going to be happy anyway.
Totally. Well, we're glad it went this way, certainly. Though I got to watch the finals Archon match between you and Astron. That was a very cool game. Yeah, some weekend violence to decide it all was pretty cool and exciting to see.
Yeah, but on top of that, so on top of your game against Astron, which closed the whole thing out, it was a pretty fun finals because JDG, you got to play in person, right?
Yeah, that was really fun. Yeah, so basically, MedUps reached out to me saying, "Oh, are you free this weekend?" But it turned out that we were both gonna be at Gen Con, so I was like, "Oh, why don't we try to like play in person and maybe you can like hijack the Ghost Galaxy stream?" So we talked to Jeremy and he was like really kind about like giving us space to stream our Triad finals matchup. And then June was also willing to basically commentate, so it kind of worked out and it was like really cool just to like do it in person and kind of like have, I guess, exposure for the league as well. So that was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think did they stream all 3 games or just 2 out of 3?
All 3 games. So I think we streamed the first game and then they went back to streaming, I think, like the top like like the two LO games, and then they went after they had finished that on Saturday, they went back to streaming our final 2 games in the matchup.
Nice.
So
Mm.
basically
Yeah.
everything was streamed.
And everybody, I mean, we all know that everybody was watching the stream for the KTL finals, not for US Nationals.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we joke, but JDG, that gets the honor, I believe, of being the first ever GG covered triad event in some capacity, at least, right?
Oh yeah.
Triad match. So
Hopefully not the last.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Nice bit of trivia there, to be sure. Yeah, and what a great games that was. I think I saw the second 2. I'm not sure if I caught the stream or the first. Can't recall. But yeah, MedUps. And so you played with them in person. I actually did meet them in person, but I can't recall. Can you clear this up for me? Is it MedApps or MeDaps?
I assume it's MedApps.
Okay. All right.
I don't think he cares, MedApps. I think we've asked him this before, and he's just kind of like, I don't care, whatever you want to call me.
So I'm not sure on the pronunciation, but I am sure that he is a very nice person and super polite, and might not want to put you out by correcting you. It could be. I don't know. So yeah, Mr. Daps, if you're listening, let us know how it should be spoken. But anyway, yeah, super cool. Very cool that I got to be covered. Awesome. And played at IRL. Very fun to see. Very fun to see.
That's awesome.
Oh, actually, do you want?
Go ahead.
Oh, do you want? Sure. I was just gonna say it was. So another thing that was really funny is we both had 2 decks that were not in English. Um, so basically, MedUps, spent the previous night, like I think like an hour, basically like printing out his entire deck, uh, and then that was the deck that ended up getting banned, which is
Oh,
just hilarious.
but that speaks to what kind of person he is, right? He's like, I don't want
Yeah,
JDG to have to like look up the cards in my deck. I just want to like help him out here a little bit, and you're just like, I'm just gonna ban it anyway. Don't worry about it. But it was a nice gesture. Did you do the same for him?
no, my deck was not English, but it got banned anyway, so it
Okay,
didn't really matter.
maybe
JDG
that's why it got banned.
JDG went out of
Yeah.
his way to print his English decks in non-English languages just for extra confusion. Oh, nice. So yeah, class act indeed. Class act indeed. Yeah, those were cool games. And well, yeah, classy guy. More evidence to the MedUp's classiness.
So those were some good games, but unfortunately, we ended up down 0-1 out of that, and we were a little bit on a little bit of a tight rope there when we went into quick draws match next.
Yeah, I definitely had the pressure to not lose that one. And so I tested it a bit with you guys. I tested it with Crusader as well. Crusader was like our biggest cheerleader, I gotta say. Shout out to Crusader. He really wanted Sloppy Lab Work to defend that title. Um, and he gave me some really good test games. And the funny part about my test games against Nobe's deck, so I was playing a Grim Reminders deck, Luigi, and then I was playing against Hotling, which is a Winds of Exchange deck from Nobe. And I first started playing it thinking that Hot Lane was like massively favored, and I ended up bidding like 10 chains, I think, in my first practice game, and barely lost with Hot Lane at 10 chains. So I was like, this is kind of interesting. And then the more I played it, the better and better Luigi got in the matchup to the point where I played Crusader once, and I ended up Luigi ended up winning both the first two games in the test. I bid 4 chains on Luigi and still won with Luigi. So I was like, this matchup is like it was really interesting the more that we learned it because it went from something that like at first was skewed one way to eventually being like slightly favored towards the other deck, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the actual match against Nobe, Hotling, of course, like had some really good draws, won both the first two games, and I think it kind of indicated to Nobe that it was more heavily favored than I felt it was. And so I forget the number that I left it at. I think it was about 6 chains, maybe seven.
I think it was
Yeah,
Um,
6.
yeah.
six.
Okay. So you guys remember better than I do. You guys should be telling this story. Um, but it was a good game three. Luigi got going, and I got like this loop that the deck does where it can repeat the Mars Psychic Network every single turn and reap and get the Don't Believe Your Eyes back and archive everything. And if they wipe your board, I have the Winds of Death archived, and it's just like it's a really intricate loop that the deck has. It's pretty unique that I haven't seen in other Grim Reminders deck,
Hmm.
and it takes some interesting setup to get to that point. And I was very fortunate in game three that it got to that setup pretty early on, and I knew I felt pretty good once it did that.
Mm-hmm. That's
That
interesting
could have
too.
happened in games one and two, though. Like if that would have happened in games one and two, it could have been a 2-0
Mhm.
one way or another.
Yeah, interesting too though. What you were mentioning, how kind of the where you were at with the chain bid shifting as you practice it. I've been thinking a lot. This unrelated, maybe a tangent for a different day, but thinking a lot about how the bids represent your kind of like where you're at a point in time with the matchup, and that can shift after 2 games. It can shift after 5 games. Even what's the kind of the correct number can shift. And I want to say one other thing. Oh, on Crusader, yeah. Betrayal in the chat from Astron. At 2, second act at 2. Yeah. So one other thing that Rico was putting together was this Elo leaderboard across the different formats. And at the end of the first season, after those first season of results had been put in, Crusader was at the top for Archon. Yeah, which was pretty good. Yeah, he was on fire that first season especially. And yeah, John, no surprise after your season that you were on the top of the Archon one. But yeah, great player and a great teammate in helping on the practice front, Crusader for sure. So
I
cool.
haven't even looked at the ELO, so I don't even know. I know that I'm not at the top of the adaptive one though, because my regular season was 1-4, um, and you guys really carried me through the regular season. like big time.
Well, this is maybe an interesting point to mention some of the changes coming to the league next season. Should we go there now, or want to circle back later?
Let's
We
finish off the finals first.
Okay.
let's talk about the finals. We do have some teasers for next season, so we have some news. Riku already posted this, but Riku, if you're listening, we thought we had a scoop here, and then right before the show airs, you just drop all this news, completely undercut us. But we'll talk about the finals first, and we'll get to that news.
Okay, cool. So,
So-
yeah. On to the
Go
finals.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say, Quick Draw pulls out a clutch, stay alive victory, in a 3-game adaptive match. Very nice, very exciting. And then it comes down to the Archon seat. That's you, John. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if Quick Draw and JDG learned anything about me in this entire season, it's probably the fact that I'm an obsessive practicer. And so, like, any one of these playoff matches I was going into, I was practicing at least 10 games with the matchup before I went into it. And with the finals match, I practiced 20 games. And I could not figure out Astron's deck. I was just going through, and my deck, Plimpton, was just beating it over and over and over again. And finally, Quick Draw was the one who figured out how Astron's deck worked and like what it needed to do in the matchup. And I knew it was going to come down to a Cease Forge battle at the end if it was a close game. And so I knew which pieces I needed to hold in order to get to win that Cease Forge battle because we both had Spontaneous Awakening. So it was just a matter of being able to use your own Spontaneous Awakening and prevent the opponent from using their Spontaneous Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And so game one of the finals, I was worried because I did not want to have this whole thing come down to me with my record of always coming in second place for everything. So, but I did feel like the matchup was pretty favorable overall based upon the results of all my practices. But I know better than to ever think anything's favorable when Astron's the one on the other side of the table. Another one of those players in Keyforge you can never take lightly because he's so good. And so game one, Plimpton just fired off turn 2 and it was over. Astron recognized it was over and just conceded the game. And so that was just RNG, nothing really to it. Game 2, both of us came out with much better draws. I got going a little faster. Astron caught up. And then he reached that crucial question of, does he play the Cease Forge or not? And he decided to play the Cease Forge, which was probably the right call. But I've been holding Spontaneous Awakening. I specifically did not play Spontaneous Awakening on his Haunted House because I didn't want it getting stuck to it. So I was holding the Spontaneous Awakening still in hand. I was able to Spontaneous Awakening the Cease Forge and then immediately flip my deck over. And once my deck got flipped over, he couldn't Spontaneous Awakening it back. So on the last turn, the one thing I was a little worried about was if he had Strength from Diversity, he could pull me off check. So I played Catch and Release just so that he wouldn't have any creatures to do that with. Catch and Release sent everything back to his hand. So he couldn't. So he did have the Strength from Diversity, as it turned out, but it didn't matter once all the creatures were gone. And so that was how the finals ended.
Yeah, an interesting thing about a Spectral Ruth deck is that, sure, yeah, you get your whole deck in Archives, but it also means that you're never haunted, which people think is like, oh, that's probably a bad thing, but that really saved you in this matchup because the Spontaneous Awakening could not steal back the Cease Forge. Like, I could see a case like, so Plimpton has much better efficiency and recursion than Astron's deck did, but I could see some matchups where you're playing like Tug of War in an almost stalemate, stealing the Cease Forge back and forth. But that wasn't possible since you were not capable of being haunted with the way that you set
and
that
I
up.
was specifically archiving the Boo because I knew that if I needed to make him haunted, I could just play the Boo to make him haunted, whereas he had no way of making me haunted at that point.
Exactly.
So that's why you and I practiced that Cease Forge battle at the end several times, so I had a pretty good idea of exactly the pieces I needed for that Cease Forge battle.
Mm-hmm. And just for folks following along at home who might not know the cards quite as well, right? So Cease Forge comes down with 2 counters, 3 counters, 2 counters.
2 counters.
2.
Right. And each of your turns at the start of your turn, you take off one. When you take off the last one, it goes away. But while it's in play, nobody gets to forge keys, as Quickdraw and I learned
Hmm.
excruciatingly at
Yep.
KFC.
Not even if you play a Forging an Alliance
you could
or a revived Zorha, they don't forge keys. Doesn't matter.
you could try real hard, it just doesn't happen. But the cool thing about this, in some ways, it acts as a key cheat, right? Because you take off a counter, the last counter, right before you would normally forge a key. So if you have amber enough to forge and you take off that last counter, you get to do it, right? So
Yeah.
if it's two keys to two keys and you've got enough amber in your pool to forge, you take off that last counter on your turn, forge your key, you're good. Uh, Now, Spontaneous Awakening is a little bit funky in that it replays one of your opponent's artifacts as though you had played it, with the Spontaneous Awakening coming in attached to it. So you get, an Amber Pip, right, if that artifact is an Amber Pip, but you also reset the counters on Ceaseforge. And now that it's yours, the counters come off at the start of your turn instead of your opponent's turn, meaning it's sort of flipped into becoming your key cheat instead of their key cheat. Uh, and the caveat, of course, is that Spontaneous Awakening only does its thing when your opponent is haunted. So there's kind of this back and forth game of like, yeah, I can steal your key cheat to make it my key cheat, but only while you're haunted. And so there's a timing window that has to be managed, and this hauntedness that has to be managed, and it's a kind of beautiful game of chicken with the tension coming out at the end. And there are a lot of pieces you're juggling: the hauntedness, the time counters, and all these things. So very cool to see, and navigated
Yeah.
really well.
And I
Yeah.
and I do have to say I was very proud of Plimpton throughout the season because Plimpton did go undefeated both in the regular season and in the playoffs in KTL, and getting that kind of record against the quality of decks that it was going up against every week. That's a very, very strong deck. Certainly the strongest deck I've ever opened.
Yeah. Undefeated in matches. You lost, looks like 2 games, 3 games throughout the season, but never lost an entire match, right?
That's correct.
4 games, looks like. But yeah, we were in the group of death. Like everyone pointed to Group D that we were in as like the strongest group, and it was not easy. So, um, pretty crazy group we were in. And yeah, I mean, in hindsight, looking back at it, like those were a lot of great players, great decks that we had to go up against, and feel pretty fortunate that we got out of that group in the first place.
Yeah, I definitely considered us lucky to get out of that group. We also um, we had the thing that you absolutely have to have in when team wins count, which is you got to have two of your people firing on the same week
Hmm.
as often as you can, and we had that on most weeks, um, and that's what got us safely out of that group.
Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, major props to JDG who played really really well in those original group games and saved our bacon on a few weeks.
yeah. It was a team effort, honestly, because like I said, I was
Mhm.
1-4 in the regular season, and we still managed to win 4 out of 5 weeks. So, um, it was definitely a group effort the whole way. So, props to you guys for doing that.
Right on. Well, cool. Well, John, you played Plimpton. We just described it was clearly an excellent deck. Also, the deck that you played to a second place Voltor finish. Very strong showing there. At least one Voltor.
Second place at Rochester, top 8 at Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh, and I've mentioned that I think it's your strongest deck. So no regrets there on the deck choice, I'm assuming.
No, no regrets at all.
How about in the kind of the adaptive or triad seats? What went into your decisions for deck selection, and were there things that you wish you had done differently there?
I'll let you go first, JDG.
Sure. I think for myself, I mean, I wanted to bring um, artifact decks because the matchups against a certain decks, it's just so, I guess, almost often like one side. Like, for example, with Quixelstone, there are a lot of decks that are just that just have really bad matchups against Chandra. Um, but then I also brought Grimmer Miner's deck, which is basically Winds of Death deck that has Might Makes Right, and it's very consistent. Like it wins like when it wins on like turn 8, turn 7, like very consistently, and it doesn't have a lot of bad matchups. So basically, I guess my strategy was to basically force my opponent to ban either ban Chandra, the Quicksilverstone deck, or Vicari, which has Eden's Jar, which basically allows me to freely play my Group Reminders deck, which does well in a lot of matchups, kind of regardless of what they bring. And then either playing Vicari or Chandra. Um, I think Chandra was the one that got banned the most, and I think one interesting thing is that the matchups that my opponent did not ban Chandra, I actually lost, which is interesting.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm not sure if
Don't
I
give
should
away
say
your
that, but
secrets.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think Chandra is the most well known of the 3 decks I brought, so it makes sense that they would ban it. Um, my Eden Straw deck is based like has a lot of control, a lot of efficiency, and it does have a couple surprises. It has a rule of 6 line, which I can like basically, if you have a bunch of creatures on a board, and if I've archived a lot of stuff, I can just like play hold the line, and there's this rule of 6 line where I can just like generate so much amber. So it's kind of like a surprise, like it's something that my opponent doesn't totally expect. Um, yeah, so I guess yeah, I think bringing two artifact decks that basically force my opponent to ban one of them, and then bringing one deck that does well in like matchups regardless if they have R, I think worked pretty well.
Yeah, you definitely had the hardest job of any of us when it comes down to picking decks. Like John, you have like this deck that's considered your best deck, basically pretty easy for an Archon. Just choose a single deck. For me, with adaptive, I have a lot of decks I could have chosen, but you have like a very thoughtful approach to how to craft this triad lineup, and like definitely had to make more difficult decisions than we did, I would say.
Hmm.
And JDG, that was the same lineup you played season 1 of the KTL, right? Or was it
Yeah,
yeah.
it was the same. It was the same lineup. So I was thinking like, okay, if it worked well the first season, I'll do the same thing next season and see how it works. I think it. I think I didn't do as well in the second season. Um, and with the changes that we'll discuss later, I'll have to change my lineup as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I guess
we'll get to that in a bit.
last kind of question for you then. Did you find yourself looking to ban the artifact control often when you're going to banning, or were you kind of looking to ban best decks?
I think it depends what else they bring. Um, because like if they have one deck that is weak to Quixel, then I know that they're gonna ban the Quixel Stone deck. Um, so then I might not even ban the deck with R because even my Eden Star deck can do well against decks with artifact control. I mean, I can ban the artifact control with Eden's, or sometimes it doesn't matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I think it depends on what else they bring and
Yeah,
how much artifact control. Like if all of their decks have artifact control, or if only one of them has it.
makes sense. Makes sense. And quick draw, you played not Dark Tidings and had no regrets.
I wouldn't say I had no regrets, but I did really enjoy the more I got to know my Luigi deck. It's a Grim Reminders deck. Fun fact, named after my cat, one of my custom Grim Reminders decks, Luigi Prosciutto. And I knew going into the event that it was like a pretty tricky deck. It's not a normal Grim Reminders deck because it can't get haunted very quickly, but it really wants to have a big discard pile. Um, and so, kind of understanding that and how to play the early game, I think, is the most important part about it and setting up um, whatever your game plan is. But I chose it, I think, also a big factor is because I felt in the last 6 months or so, the adaptive meta had started to skew higher, like a higher in power level, seeing a lot of Winds of Exchange decks that are pretty solid. And I expected some Grim Reminders decks that were also pretty solid. So I wanted the chance at 2 O's, so I wanted to bring something slightly more powerful than what I would normally bring with Dark Tidings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, turns out to have backfired on me because I happened to be in the group where two of the other 5 players brought the worst reversal decks they could find to adaptive. and I ended up losing both of those matches 2-1. But had I brought a Dark Tidings deck, I think I would have been at an advantage because it would have been a high chain bid probably, but it wouldn't have been 24 like my games were. Um, and the reversal decks that I played against, like Luigi was, it's not a super strong reminders deck, but it's strong enough that when you're playing against a reversal deck from AOA or Coda, it's going to take 24 chains right away. And I ended up losing those games just because I made a misplay in the first one and I should have held my Winds of Death for longer than I did, despite having the chains. And then the second one, an Inspector hit my um, creature control, and so I kind of just I died to a large board. So that kind of happens in a 24 chain game. But the first one I definitely could have made better decisions to win it. But it was just kind of funny how I was like, yeah, the meta is going to shift up. It's going to be more powerful stuff. And then for literally the first time ever, even after 11 Kagi seasons, I'm running into like actual reversal caliber decks that were just abysmal. So
Do you have any sense for whether the larger Kagi, or not Kagi, a KTL adaptive meta was shifting up outside of your pod or outside of your group?
I checked because I was like, this can't be like a common thing, and this was the only group that had any reversal decks, and it had two of them. So,
Gotcha.
um, I don't know about the overall power level of the others. I didn't pay that close of attention. I was kind of just looking to be like, okay, is anyone else bringing these decks with like three Amber Pips and four Effervescent Principles? Nope, that's just my group. That's all.
Okay.
So,
And
um,
we'll get to kind of changes, I guess, in KTL 3. But ignoring those, would you be taking Luigi Prosciutto again, or you think you'd pick something different?
I'd probably switch it up. I do like to switch it up when I play adaptive. I like to stick with one thing for an event or for a set period of time, and then change it up. Just because I really do value the like unpredictability of adaptive. Like the more people get to know the adaptive decks that I play, I feel the less advantage I have with them, and so I want to change it up for that reason.
Very fair. Well, cool. Well, I don't know if there are other notes folks wanted to make about their deck choices or things they want to do differently. Like, feel free to chime in. But otherwise, I think we wanted to just touch on maybe, I mean, we've done it a little bit already, but things that we really like about the KTL format or just kind of the event in general. I know that I personally really enjoy team events. I think team wise or team is a great way to play Keyforge. Um, if you're listening to GG, like yeah, it would be cool to have team based world events. It would be awesome. Would be awesome. My opinion. Editor's note. But yeah, I don't know. What do you all think? What do you think about this league structure, this league format?
Well, I think I've told this story before, but back when I played in my first Vault Tour, which was back in very early 2020, before COVID and all that, back in Albany, I came in second in the Archon event there, but that was not my favorite part of the weekend. My favorite part of the weekend was the team event, and I played with Arlie and with who used to be the guy who used to be called Yours Truly and is now called Lucky Penny. Um,
Oh,
and
I never put that together. Okay, so he's now Lucky
yeah, he
Penny.
changed his name.
Oh.
Um, So I played with the two of them in that event, and to me, like that was way more fun than anything in the original Archon because of the fact that they let you kibitz and with your team as you were playing, so you were allowed to like ask for advice. The three of you would be playing next to each other, and you could like lean over to your teammate and go, "Do you think I should do this, or do you think I should do this?" And it was just a lot of fun getting all that interaction during the game, and so the team leagues that we've been doing online, I don't know if they quite capture that to quite that extent, but it's still such a fun way to play Keyforge. It's absolutely one of the best ways to have fun with Keyforge. I've even put together at our LGS sometimes when we used to have enough players for it. I put together team matchups there, and where you would rotate seats and things like that, and it was always a lot of fun to do. So yeah, I completely agree with your call. Let's do more team events, especially for like side events and things. Like doing a team event would be way more fun than doing like an Unchained event. Just my opinion.
Mm.
I love the diversity in formats that it offers. Like if a team event had like 3 people playing Archon, it'd be like, okay, cool, it's a team event. But what I especially like about KTL is that we are playing Triad and Adaptive, two formats that have a very good following of players. And like just hearing you JDG talk about the thought that goes into Triad really highlights like how interesting of a format it is. And I'm glad that there's an event like this that can like highlight these other formats in a team setting.
Hmm. Yeah, I like how that with KTL, yeah, I totally agree with having different formats. So like, there's something for everyone, and then you can find someone who, if I like try, I can find someone who likes adaptive or Archon, and then it's always fun to practice games together and think about matches. Um, yeah, and it'd be cool. It would be cool to do this in person, because yeah, it's definitely different doing it online versus in person. Like what John mentioned with being right beside each other and like asking, oh okay, what do you think of this? I think that would be really cool. I've never done that before, so that'd be cool to do. Maybe at some point in a future in-person Keyforge event.
I know that KTL is all best of three formats. Each seat is a best of three format, right? So Archon's best of three Archon, Triad's best of three, and this is long adaptive, right? But I also really like that team events give a nice way to kind of even out some of the inherent variance in the game, right? Even if you're just playing best of one in each of those seats, right? So 3 players playing best of one gives you sort of a best of three like feel, and can I don't know, help with time and logistics too if you're thinking about how to run some events. But not as much as a concern for a large online league, but has an extra benefit if there are ghosts thinking about running team events. just saying. Yeah, cool.
Well, we do have some information that, as I mentioned before, was thought was exclusive, but apparently not. But KTL 3 is happening. So KTL just wrapped up less than a week ago. KTL 3 is going to be starting up in early September. I believe the first Monday in September, I think was the date that I saw, the second. And signups are live now. So you can go to the KTL Discord server to find all the information. I will drop that link in the chat here on Twitch, and then JT's obviously going to put them in the show notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, head over there. It's like we said, a really fun event. Got about a couple weeks before signups close for KTL 3. And there are, as we've hinted to a number of times tonight already, going to be some format changes for KTL 3. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. The biggest one, at least the biggest one that caught my eye, so I can start there, is that across all the decks brought by your team, you can only have each set represented once, right? I think I got that right. So if you use a Grim Reminders deck for Archon, then your Triad cannot include a Grim Reminders deck, and the adaptive seat cannot use a Grim Reminders deck also. So yeah, across those 5 decks, each has to have a unique set. Indeed.
Yeah, I know JDG is going to want to put Dark Tidings in the Triad, so I'm going to have to figure out what to do for adaptive. So
we were joking before, but I'm going to put out the challenge right now. I think the absolute flex move is to bring Dark Tidings to Archon and Grim Reminders to adaptive. So if you pull it off, props to you. Yeah, props to you out there. And that absolutely does, you were saying, JDG, changes up your Triad, right? Because you've got double mass mutation in your lineup.
Yeah, maybe I can bring 3 Quixelstone decks next season. I have 2. Just need one more.
yeah, Vault Masters is legal, and I think there's Quixel and Vault Masters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, maybe. And then there's one in Quixelstone is in Winds of Exchange too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there? Oh, it's naturally in there, right? You don't need an antiquities dealer. It's like actually just in there. Yeah. Yeah, we can make that happen, I'm sure.
So yeah, like the idea I think is everyone's going to be playing Grim Reminders and Archon because you can't ban it, right? So that puts JDG in a tough spot. Can't play the double mass mutation. Can't play Grim Reminders. You've got your work cut out for you next season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. My initial reaction too is there's going to be an awful lot of Grim Reminders in Archon. I mean, it makes sense to put your team's best deck in Archon, right? I mean, as opposed to diluting its effectiveness in Triad or using it up for adaptive for sure. Yeah, it almost seems like this is going to be still a true kind of Archon environment, and then it'll be an interesting kind of set restricted Triad, and then largely untouched, I'm guessing, adaptive environment. Though, yeah, you're going to see very little. Well, making Quick Draw happy, very little Grim Reminders and very little Winds of Exchange likely to be showing up in adaptive.
That's true. I've grown to not mind Winds of Exchange in adaptive. I think there's a lot of really good adaptive decks in Winds of Exchange. I really mean that. Like I think Hotling that I played against in the finals was a pretty cool deck. Was it JT you were playing against a Winds of Exchange in Kagi the other day with the puzzling trinkets, or was that someone else's game?
I played against
No, that was
today. It was a double puzzling trinket deck.
yeah.
With
I actually saw
Sticklifter.
2 double puzzling trinket decks played in Kagi in the last couple days by 2 different players.
Yeah, one.
I think that's a great choice.
Fabulous Thing, I think, was playing one of them.
That was the one that I saw yesterday.
Yeah. Quick Draw. Oh my man. You get one. You get your one Whirlpool Winds of Exchange middling deck, and you're like, all right, it's cool now.
It's actually pretty awesome. It plays just like a Dark Tidings. Might be coming to a Kagi pod near you.
Oh my, how the winds have changed. I can't say tables have turned.
Tides have turned.
I mean, but Poseidon is rolling over in the depths. Hearing you talk about Winds of Exchange and adaptive, can't be using Tides have turned. But okay, very good. Winds of Exchange getting some love. Well, we'll be I don't know, 3 months into the next set when we start talking about, maybe that Grim Reminders set has something to say for adaptive. Although you're still good with Grim Reminders.
No, I think it is still pretty good for adaptive.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we'll see what it shakes up for Archon. It's definitely going to shake up Triad. Triad is my hunch for being the most impacted set by this change. Most seat by this change.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. And do you all remember what some of the other changes were? That was one that stuck out to me mostly.
There was a change about the tiebreakers and about how they calculate the standings. Also, JT, you helped put together the ELO scores. What else does Emperor Riku have in the announcement? I think those are the only changes for now, at least. I think there may be some more changes coming, but
okay.
I hope so, at least.
There may have been a change related to how stings were calculated. I guess we don't need to dive in too much there. But yeah, deck selections will be impacted for sure. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Well, sweet. I don't know. Anything else that you folks want to hit on that? I think we've mentioned where folks can go to sign up for KTL3. We will put a note in the show notes, a link in the show notes. It's only notes in the show notes. There will also be a link in the show notes for signups.
I will add in there that I will not be returning for KTL Season 3, so Quick Draw and JDG are going to have to find themselves their third Archon player in 3 seasons.
Must be something wrong
I
with
will
that
say,
Quick Draw in JDG.
I will say to all of the elite Archon players out there who might be thinking about playing with these guys, I mean, they've been in the finals twice. There's a reason for that. You probably want to play with them.
Well, I mean, JT might be onto something though too. Like we keep chasing away all these Archon players. Like I don't know, JDG and I must be bad teammates. We can't keep a teammate sticking around with us.
Terrible teammates.
There you go.
Oh yeah, they'll miss you. Yeah, Beaker. We'll see if he wants to saddle on back. I don't know. We'll see. I think it was really fun this season, getting lots of sloppy crossovers.
We did, yeah.
So maybe we'll look for some other fun crossovers to throw out there too. Do we have 4 sloppy X teams, or just 3?
I think there were 3 sloppy teams. 2 of them had crossover. One did not. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Gotcha.
I have to double check that now that I'm looking at it, because Beahawk and Miggy teamed up as the sloppy lab workers. and they were a sloppy alliance teamed up with Vargast, um, and I am pretty sure that that was it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep,
we
sounds
have
right.
a few sloppy lab workers who are on a hiatus of their own. I think maybe ending soon though. So yeah, I think try to get a fourth team around next time.
Cool. Well, we shall see. Sign-ups are live, so yeah, we'll have to rustle up some folks to fill those seats. Excellent. Cool. Well, any other notes that we want to hit on? Anything we missed? Stuff we want to chat about? No.
That's it for
Okay.
me.
Well then, yeah, we still don't have any sponsors for interludes. Sorry, folks.
They're saving their money for the big ones.
You know, you gotta make them appreciate you when you're not there. You know, so they'll be back. They'll be back.
But weren't you paying them?
That's why they're. That's yeah. We're out of sponsor budget for the summer.
Yes, Twitch, we are paying our sponsors.
Twitch was getting ready to getting when to come down and shut us down. They're like, wait a minute, I don't know what to do anymore. I think I should take it as an insult that I've never once gotten pinged by Twitch to like shut down our monetization or like external monetization. They're like, yeah, go for it, guys.
You have 51 followers now? Yeah, you're fine. Whatever.
And that's just the Russell clan. I don't know.
I think we have more than that now. But anyway, that's it. 80 followers, JT.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
That's too
goodness.
much. If I had known that earlier, I'd have been very nervous tonight.
There you go.
Whew.
There you go. Well, I believe, I could be mistaken, I often am, but I believe this is our final interlude. How can you follow up the super key? Is there going to be a super duper key? I don't know. Oh, wait. Okay, serious question, JDG. At Gen Con, were there any super keys floating around? Like, they got to be out in the wild somewhere at this point.
I think only the first place winners got super key.
They did get super keys. There were actual super keys there?
Yeah, there were super keys. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So can you tell me, this is very important, is there like a little tactile bump as you flip the key, or is it kind of a linear switch deal? You know what I mean? Like, does it have does it kind of click into place, or is it kind of just a free spin?
No, it's like I think I remember it being like free spinning.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
Oh.
Well, there could be room for a super duper key. Then we'll see.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we may be installing some little magnets. I'm not sure. But anyway, we will see when they ship. Looking forward either way. And with that, we'll wrap up our last interlude and say that we will very soon, once again, be recording on Wednesday evenings at 9:30 Eastern Time right here at twitch.tv/sloppylabwork. You can find recordings of our past shows and other streams over at youtube.com. We are at Sloppy Lab Work over there. And for the very best content, 34? 57 times distilled and scraped from the bottom of Beaker. You can search for that very phrase in your podcatcher of choice. And we'll be there to team up with you. Indeed, we will. Thanks once again for doubling up on interludes with us, John, aka Second Act. Always a pleasure.
Happy to be here.
Indeed. And JDG, great to have you on again. My man, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Indeed, a pleasure as always. And quick draw, got any folks for the words? No. Uno, reverse that. Words for the folks. Getting off by the last audio stop.
It's good to see you guys, John, JDG, JT. It was a fun season. Glad we were able to come out on top. And for everyone else out there, please continue to stay sloppy.
Stay sloppy, indeed. Indeed. So, yeah. I think we were not playing a game this evening, but it's been fun. It's been a good conversation. So yeah, unless you all wanted to hang on and play, you can. But I need to get to sleep. I'm a sleepy boy, as they say.
I'm an old man, as they say. So I'm We will be back in a few weeks for the season 3, and JT and I will not skimp on games starting in season 3.
There you go. So with that, the cabal of Jays plus quick draw.
Just quick draw.
Just quick draw. Signing off. And we'll see you all around the Sloppy Lab. Hey, peeps.
See everybody.
Yeah.